sometimes in the past I feel like I've been a bit hard on WWE's creative team. It's one of those things. It's much easier in hindsight, being 2020, to sit there and criticize things that have already happened and be like, oh, I'd have done it differently, da da da. And sometimes it's true, and sometimes the WWE creative team has just been bad, terrible. And they're still not perfect now for by any stretch of the imagination. I think sometimes it's hard because you sit there from the outside looking in and you're like, that's so stupid. Why would you do it this way or why would you do it that way? Without understanding all of the inner workings of the company and understanding all of the things that have to be met, the standards and practices, what have you. And the reason I bring that up is I look at this week's Raw, and to me, it's a perfect example of no matter how good your writing might be, even though the writing wasn't great this week, no matter how many compelling characters you have, which they have a few, but not a ton, um, it's still incredibly challenging on a week out basis to produce, direct, and write and put together and structure an entertaining 3-hour television show. I mean, if you really think about that, it's like they're producing a 3-hour movie every single week. It's really hard. It really is, to make them good every single time. And with this week's show, it kind of felt like you're almost kind of going through the motions, with a couple of the exceptions. You're just going through the motions, getting through the whole 3 hours. And luckily, there was just enough in this week's Raw over the course of 3 hours to still make this a good show to me. It's hard sometimes when you're sitting there for 3 hours and you got to have a lot of different things to keep your interest throughout that entire time. And I barely got that this week, frankly. Barely got it. One of the things that this Raw did have this week that I did kind of like was the Beat the Clock challenge between Ryback and CM Punk. Ryback has to face R-Truth, and CM Punk has to face Curtis Axel. Whoever beats their opponent the quickest, if they beat him, gets to choose the stipulation for the match at Hell in a Cell. And this is cool. It gives you something that involves more than one segment of the show that kind of ties into itself and at the same time builds towards the next pay-per-view. And that's all fine and good. I wish they didn't have Hell in a Cell as a pay-per-view. I wish we had a long period of build-up to get to Survivor Series instead. However, it is what it is. I can't really control or change that. So CM Punk beats Curtis Axel, the IC champion. Not like that belt really matters anyway, so you might as well bury the kid. He beats him quicker than Ryback beats R-Truth. To me, the way I look at it is that if Paul Heyman wants his guy to save him, to allow Ryback to have choice of the stipulation of the match at the pay-per-view, why not just tell Curtis Axel to run the entire time? Literally. Run in the ring, then jump back out for a 9 seconds, run back in, back out, maybe get in a couple shots, do a little mix-up, a little action, and then do the same thing. You know what I mean? You would think if you were in that situation and you had that type of control to do something like that maybe you would. I'm just saying, if you're booking it from a more realistic standpoint. So Punk chooses to have Ryback and Paul Heyman 2-on-1 at Hell in a Cell in Hell in a Cell, which is fine. At least we know we're getting some matches in Hell in a Cell at the frickin' Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. How many did we have in the Hell in a Cell last year? 1? So you would assume at least one of the world titles is going to be in the Hell in a Cell. Daniel Bryan and Randy Orton as well. And then CM Punk versus Ryback and Paul Heyman. So I think we already have more Hell in a Cell matches right now than we did last year for the pay-per-view. So that's a good thing, I guess. For those of you that may have missed it in my past Impact review this last week, I announced that on this week's Impact review, there's going to be a big announcement. The inaugural inductee into the OTRS Central Hall of Fame, and that individual will make a grand appearance and have a big Hall of Fame acceptance speech in my Bound for Glory 2013 review coming up this Sunday. Now, if you want to take a guess who that individual may be, let me know in the comments section down below. I just hope that everybody ends up being pleased with this first inductee. That's all I'm going to say right now. Another thing that this show gave me this week that helped me kind of get through the 3 hours, frankly, was obviously the segment where Stephanie McMahon and Triple H are in the middle of the ring. Fantastic mic work. Stephanie might be at her best ever in terms of mic work as this domineering, entitled, kind of silver spoon, nepotistic bitch heel. Just sexy, just phenomenal. these accusations and allegations that the other nerds on the internet have been sitting there putting out there. Talking about, oh, Triple H had a concussion and he broke his jaw. Bullshit! As she said, he's the king of kings. He is the game. The cerebral assassin. Triple H. Now, I do want to take Stephanie to task for this. You brought up some of his names, but you left some of them out. The Spartacus of Proboscis. The Thug of Ugga. God. He's fucking God. That's all you have to say. All the other names are great, but all you have to say is he's God. But I like the Spartacus of Proboscis and the Thug of Ugga. I don't know about you guys. I like those nicknames. But the bottom line is, I understand a lot of people are starting to kind of turn on this whole storyline, and they don't really like this. Remember, a lot of us wanted Triple H to be heel. You are getting it. This is the role he's better suited for. He's better equipped for. It does make for better television. I don't care what some of my other fellow marks on the internet are saying. It does make for much better television, even regardless of what the ratings may be saying right now. Because sometimes ratings can be a bit of a tricky thing, and sometimes ratings are not always a full accurate measure of how good or bad a television show is. It's just one piece of the puzzle. And sometimes it takes time. It takes time for things to get over, for things to work. And this is all building towards Vince making a triumphant return sometime soon. And think about it this way, this whole Stephanie Triple H heel turn is really designed as a big build towards WrestleMania. So the company already has WrestleMania 30 in mind. That should be an encouraging thing. But Stephanie going on and praising God, fantastic stuff. Mwah. The Thug of Ugga. The Spartacus of Proboscis. I like those names. It's kind of a positive and a negative that Bray Wyatt got hurt this past weekend at a live event, because they're building towards him facing off with The Miz, which is fine, and this Hell in a Cell card probably could use that match. But then with him not being able to do it, you get a few more weeks of mind games, and maybe you build up the match between these two for Survivor Series. Because at this point in time, you need some type of direction. You need something for Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt family to do. So just throwing him in at the last minute to Miz and having him already have a match at Hell in a Cell, I don't know if it's necessarily the right thing to do. I think even if Bray Wyatt was healthy, potentially the better thing to do would be to develop a storyline between these two where it really doesn't start to come to a head until Survivor Series. Because again, until a Kane comes back or maybe a Taker comes back or whoever the case might be, Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt family is a good character concept without a whole lot of direction. And maybe involving them in some type of actual legit storyline with The Miz would give this character some type of direction that it needs for the time being. And when a character has direction, it is much more likely to get over. Period. Now, let's not kid ourselves here. Let's get past all the BS. Looking at the Daniel Bryans and the CM Punks and the Dolph Zigglers and all these other guys that you love to worship here on the old interwebs. The bottom line is, this company has one dominant force. It's a group. The Breakfast Club. The Breakfast Club. And you think about it right now. It's like pieces are there, but not the whole entire thing. Now, coming up at Hell in a Cell, you've got the return of John Felix Anthony Cena. Ladies and gentlemen, make no mistake about it. Hell in a Cell could be an epic pay-per-view. I want you to think about this for a second and really think about it. The retired member of the Breakfast Club, Shawn Michaels, he's back. He's going to be reffing the main event WWE Championship match. Just think about that. Triple H and Stephanie are your top heels right now. Those are two more members of the Breakfast Club. Sheamus, yes, he's still gone, and that's unfortunate, but he may be back in a couple of months or whenever, and he may even be turning heel. You never know. How much better that could be for him and his character for sure. But just think about the possibilities. After Hell in a Cell, after the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, you could still have Triple H and Stephanie as the top heels. You could have Randy Orton as your WWE champion and John Cena as your World Heavyweight champion with an awaiting Sheamus in the wings still. Now, what does that mean for you, the wrestling fan? That means Ratings are about to pick up. That means live event attendance is about to pick up. That means pay-per-view buys are about to pick up. Ladies and gentlemen, don't mistake yourselves. You know it as good and well as I do. That business is about to pick up starting October 27th, brother. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I understand sometimes the challenges for WWE's creative team. It's like you're making a movie every single week, and a 3-hour movie at that. That can be tough, and it's tough to make them good every week. Key thing is giving us enough moments in those 3 hours to make the whole show palpable. And if nothing else made this show palpable for you, the main event should have gotten the job done. This, to me, represented what can be good still about professional wrestling. This, to me, represented what the WWE can still do well. This, to me, represented why us as wrestling fans still love professional wrestling, even if it frustrates us a lot from time to time. You got Cody Rhodes and Goldust versus The Shield. Tag Team Championship match to finish the show. You've got a good story behind this. You've got good, solid in-ring action. And I don't think sometimes Goldust, Dustin Runnels, gets the respect he deserves, especially now at his age. He can still really go. A great natural athlete, as his dad said. One of the more natural athletes you've seen, like a Barry Windham type of guy. There may be better pure athletes, but in terms of taking natural athleticism and translating it into wrestling skills, Goldust is really damn good. And like I said, he can still really go. And that's impressive. A quality mid-card performer from the past. And there's nothing wrong with being a quality mid-card performer. I'd rather be a quality, great mid-card performer in a great era than a main eventer in a bad era. Any day of the week. It's like you're one of the big fish in a huge pond as opposed to being the biggest fish in a small pond. I'd rather be that. The bigger fish in the biggest pond. So this match here was really good. And the way this worked out, you had, good wrestling, good storytelling leading into it, good storytelling in the match. And then you had kind of that nice Crash TV element of the Big Show coming through the crowd and helping Cody Rhodes and Goldust win the Tag Team Championships. So you had mark-out moments on several different levels. I'm not huge on the whole Big Show thing, but at least they've gotten to the point now he's actually fired. He's trying to fuck things up. I don't know if you're setting up to him and Triple H at Survivor Series, or you're setting up a huge monster 5-on-5 tag at Survivor Series, which is what I hope they're going to. Because think about this. You could have The Shield, Triple H, and Randy Orton versus maybe some combination of Big Show, Daniel Bryan, Cody Rhodes, Goldust, and maybe John Cena. Now that is a fucking big-time Major League 5-on-5 Survivor Series main event tag. Just think about that. Imagine that being the match that your entire show was built around. You've had months of story brought into it. You have a lot of your biggest stars in the company right now involved in the match. Yeah, I'd take that any day of the week. But what I'd really take are more moments like this, more matches like this, more main event matches like this, more finishes to Raws like this. Gives you a great kind of mark-out moment and gives you something that makes you look forward to next week. So that was well done by WWE, even if a lot of the other show this week I kind of frankly, it really doesn't resonate with me. I can't remember a lot of it without having to look at any notes, and it's just not worth talking about. But this was. So the WWE still managed to save face this week, in my opinion.